When someone tries to provoke you, remember this: the moment you react, they win. But when you stay calm, when you choose understanding over reaction, their chaos has nowhere to land. Power isn't found in shouting louder. It's found in knowing you don't need to. The loudest strength is quiet control. There is something sacred about the moment you choose not to respond. The air between their words and your silence becomes alive, charged with awareness, with restraint, with unseen strength. It's not weakness that keeps you quiet, it's mastery. For while many think power lies in the loudness of a voice, true power often arrives in the hush that follows an insult. It is there, in that pause, where you realize how much of your energy you have been giving away, and how effortless it is to take it back. When someone is rude, they expect a reaction, a spark, a clash, something to feed their restlessness. But when you do not react, something peculiar happens. Their words, designed to pierce, fall flat upon the ground. The noise they throw at you no longer finds a landing place. Your calmness becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they meet themselves. Every ounce of anger they release bounces back, confronting them with their own discomfort. You do not have to defend your dignity, your composure defends it for you. There's a beauty in this kind of self-possession, in knowing you are not obligated to entertain anyone's chaos. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Just breathe, just remain. Just be the witness, not the warrior. Because the moment you rise to the bait, you hand over your peace like a coin to a beggar. You start playing a game you never needed to join. But if you stay unmoved, you remind the world that your peace was never up for negotiation. You see, every rude encounter is a test of spiritual discipline. It asks you, will you act from your higher self, or will you descend into reaction? And that choice defines not the moment, but your mastery of self. It's not about winning an argument, it's about not losing yourself in one. For it's easy to match someone's energy, to return fire with fire, sarcasm with sarcasm, pride with pride. But it takes divine strength to sit still while the world tries to shake you. That is not passivity. That is power clothed in grace. Rudeness is never about you. It's about what's happening within them. A storm they haven't yet learned to calm. Their harsh words are smoke signals of their inner fire, a fire born from pain, insecurity, or fear. When you begin to see that, compassion quietly enters the room. You stop taking things personally. You realize that people project what they cannot process. The one who cuts others with words is often bleeding inside. The one who belittles others is trying to feel taller in the ruins of their own self-doubt. And so you begin to see differently. You begin to listen differently. You don't listen to what they say, but to why they say it. You hear the ache behind the arrogance, the loneliness behind the loudness. And when you see that, your anger dissolves. Not because you're weak, but because you finally understand that fighting them means fighting a wound, not a person. How can you stay angry at someone who hasn't yet met their own peace? You can only wish they do. But understanding doesn't mean tolerating. Compassion is not compliance. It's possible to forgive someone's pain without absorbing their poison. That's the delicate art, to recognize their suffering, yet stand firm in your boundaries. To say, I see your hurt, but I will not become its target. You don't need to fix them. You just need to stay aligned with who you are. Because when you hold your peace in the presence of conflict, you become the living example of another way. And this is where your silence becomes transformative. You're not silencing them to dominate. You're silencing yourself to protect what's sacred. Because your energy is sacred. Your attention is sacred. Every time you refuse to react, you are teaching your mind that not every knock deserves an open door. You're training your soul to stay still even when the world trembles. And that stillness begins to shift the atmosphere, not through force, but through vibration. When you start living from this place, your energy begins to speak before your words do. People feel it. The groundedness, the quiet assurance, the calm authority that comes from someone who is no longer easily provoked. You begin to realize that peace isn't passive. It's magnetic. It draws respect even from those who try to shake it. Your calmness becomes contagious, unsettling the rude, inspiring the observant, and comforting the ones who still remember what gentleness feels like. Rudeness can only survive in the presence of reaction. It needs friction to thrive. But in the presence of serenity, it suffocates. When someone throws negativity and you don't catch it, it stays with them. When they insult and you stay centered, they face the echo of their own behavior. It's like arguing with a mountain. No matter how much noise you make, the mountain does not move. And that quiet immovability humbles the ego like nothing else can. It's also in those moments that you begin to meet yourself in new ways. You start to see how much strength it takes to remain kind in a world that tests your patience. You start to realize that your silence isn't emptiness. It's space. Space for wisdom to enter. Space for your intuition to whisper. Space for grace to take the lead. When you stop fighting every rude encounter, you start winning battles you didn't know existed, the ones within. And somewhere in that journey, you begin to feel sorry for the one who was rude, not in a condescending way, but in a compassionate one, because you now see the exhaustion in their anger, the fear behind their control, the sadness behind their words. You realize they've probably been treated the same way, dismissed, ignored, invalidated, and now they echo what they endured. That doesn't make their behavior right, but it does make it understandable. And when you understand, you free yourself from the bitterness that tries to grow in the soil of misunderstanding. The true test, however, is consistency. It's easy to stay calm once, but can you stay calm when the same person keeps testing you? Can you keep your peace when the world keeps pressing the same wound? That's where self-mastery begins, in repetition. It's not built in grand moments, but in small, quiet choices that no one else sees. Every time you choose peace over pettiness, you strengthen your spiritual core. And over time, you find that you don't even have to try to stay calm anymore. You are calm. It becomes your nature. From that point, rudeness no longer even registers as offense. It's just noise passing through your awareness. You stop trying to correct people's tone or prove your innocence. You simply allow them their expression, knowing it doesn't define you. And that's when you truly become untouchable. Because the rude person's words may reach your ears, but they can no longer reach your soul. To live this way is to live free, not because the world became kinder, but because you did. You found a higher rhythm that no insult can interrupt. You learn to breathe through the fire without letting it burn you. And as you stand in that peace, you start to notice something miraculous. People around you change. Not because you demanded it, but because your calm presence reminds them of what they lost, the peace they once had before the noise took over. In the end, leaving a rude person speechless isn't about clever words or perfect timing. It's about embodying a frequency so serene that their chaos cannot coexist with it. You don't outtalk them, you outgrow them. You don't win, you evolve. Because every time you stay calm in the face of disrespect, you're not just silencing another's rudeness, you're silencing your own need to prove, defend, or be right. And that silence, that inner spaciousness, becomes your crown. So the next time someone tries to draw you into their storm, remember, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You can stand tall, breathe deeply, and let their words dissolve into the quiet strength that surrounds you. Let your calm be your answer. Let your silence be your shield. And let your peace be the lesson they never forget. For the one who owns their silence owns their world. And that is how you leave them speechless. There's a certain beauty in stillness that most people never learn to touch. We live in a world that worships noise, constant chatter, quick reactions, sharp comebacks. But there's a deeper form of intelligence that doesn't rush to fill the silence. It listens, it observes, it waits. Stillness is not the absence of thought, it's the presence of awareness. It's that moment between an insult and your reply, where time seems to stretch, and something inside you whispers, you don't have to go there. When someone is rude, they want you to abandon your stillness. They want to pull you into their storm. But when you remain calm, you're showing them that peace can exist even in chaos. You're teaching without speaking. You're telling them, through your composure, that not everything deserves a reaction. Some things only deserve a breath. And that single breath can change the entire outcome of a moment. Stillness gives you clarity. When you don't rush to respond, you start to see the situation, not just feel it. You can sense the pain behind the person's tone, the fear behind their aggression, the emptiness behind their need to dominate. And suddenly, their words lose their sharpness. You stop seeing an enemy and start seeing a human being trying and failing to manage their suffering. It's not pity, it's perspective. And from that perspective, your silence becomes an act of strength, not surrender. The still mind isn't passive, it's precise. It doesn't react from emotion, it chooses from wisdom. When you cultivate inner stillness, you start moving differently through life. You no longer rush to correct every misunderstanding, to defend every accusation, or to prove your worth to those who refuse to see it. You begin to live with a sense of quiet authority, the kind that doesn't need applause to know its power. The world may misunderstand your calmness as weakness, but that's because they can't hear the conversations happening in your silence. They don't know how much discipline it takes not to answer every provocation. They don't know that it takes more power to stay composed than to strike back. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is in holding your peace even when every part of you wants to explain. You don't need to justify your calmness to those who thrive on chaos. Let them wonder. Let them fill the silence with their noise until they realize that your stillness is not confusion, it's clarity. It's the strength of someone who's learned that not every battle is worth the energy it takes to fight. And when you can hold that stillness long enough, something extraordinary happens. You begin to listen differently. You no longer hear just the words people say. You start hearing what they mean, beyond their tone, beyond their attitude. You begin to pick up on the emotions that hide underneath. Sometimes you'll hear fear disguised as confidence, pain disguised as anger, or loneliness disguised as pride. When you listen beyond words, you begin to hear the story behind the sound. And when you hear the story, you stop getting lost in the noise. This kind of listening isn't about agreeing or condoning. It's about understanding. Because understanding gives you freedom. You realize that nothing another person says can define you unless you accept it as truth. You learn to let their words pass through you, like wind through an open window. They enter, they move, they leave. And in their passing, they teach you something about your own resilience. To listen deeply is to reclaim your power. You become the quiet observer, not the captive of emotion. You hear them, but you also hear yourself. The voice within that says, stay grounded. This isn't yours to carry. That voice is your compass. It reminds you that your peace is not dependent on how others treat you, but on how you treat yourself in the midst of their behavior. As you practice listening in this way, life starts to slow down. Conversations lose their tension. You stop preparing counter-arguments in your mind and start noticing the subtleties in others, their body language, their pauses, their discomfort. You become more compassionate, not because you're naive, but because you see the truth more clearly. You realize that most rude people are simply afraid of being unseen, unheard, unimportant. Their hostility is their way of saying, "See me, acknowledge me, I'm still here." And when you can see that without absorbing it, you transcend their chaos. This is the essence of detachment, not indifference, but clarity. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you refuse to be consumed. It's the art of holding compassion in one hand and boundaries in the other. You can empathize with someone's pain while refusing to make it your responsibility. You can love people from a distance when closeness begins to wound you. Detachment is the inner decision to protect your peace without closing your heart. The truth is, you don't owe anyone your emotional availability. You don't have to attend every conflict someone tries to hand you. Some people will mistake your detachment for coldness, but they won't understand that it's the result of healing, not apathy. You've simply learned that your inner world is too precious to be invaded by every storm that passes by. Detachment gives you freedom to observe life without drowning in it. You start to realize that you can witness rudeness, disrespect, and misunderstanding, and still stay rooted in calm awareness. You can watch someone project their pain onto you, and instead of reacting, you breathe and remind yourself, this is not mine. That small acknowledgement changes everything. It's like stepping out of the fire and realizing you were never burning. You were just standing too close. And when you live detached, you don't lose connection, you gain clarity. You no longer take every comment as personal. You no longer internalize every glance or tone. You start saving your emotional energy for what truly matters, for the people who nurture your soul, for the dreams that deserve your attention, for the life that feels peaceful instead of performative. Detachment is a declaration of self-respect. It says, I refuse to let your chaos define my rhythm. It's not running away, it's choosing alignment. It's understanding that not everything that demands your energy deserves it. And the more you practice it, the lighter your spirit becomes. You realize that you can be kind without being controlled, loving without being depleted, compassionate without being consumed. When you reach that level of awareness, life begins to change shape. Conflicts feel smaller. Insults sound softer. The energy that once drained you now barely touches the surface of your peace. And in that peace, you start to feel your strength in ways you never imagined. You realize that calmness is not silence. It's language. It speaks without sound, and yet it is understood by those who are ready to listen. So when someone speaks to you with rudeness, try to see it for what it is, a cry for attention from a soul that hasn't yet found its peace. You don't have to join their pain to acknowledge it. You can look at them with the stillness of understanding and let your calm presence be the mirror in which they see their own reflection. And perhaps, without saying a single word, your stillness will teach them something that no argument ever could. That there is a strength far greater than dominance. The strength to stay soft in a hardened world, to stay grounded when everything tries to shake you, and to stay kind even when kindness is not returned. That kind of strength doesn't make noise. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is. In the end, that's what true mastery feels like. Not winning every exchange, not silencing every rude voice, but being so centered within yourself that nothing outside can pull you away from your peace. To live in that space is to live free. To respond from that stillness is to leave every rude person speechless. Not because you outsmarted them, but because your silence revealed what their noise was trying to hide. And maybe that's the quiet purpose of it all. To let your stillness become a teacher, your listening become medicine, and your detachment become love in its highest form. Love for your own peace, for your own clarity, for the life that flows gracefully beyond the reach of rudeness. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than any clever comeback could. There are moments when a rude person expects your reaction. They feed on your defensiveness, your need to explain, your urgency to prove you're not what they think you are. But if you've ever stood quietly in the presence of disrespect and felt your peace deepen rather than break, then you've discovered one of the most powerful responses life has to offer: non-reaction. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you have evolved beyond the need to be understood by small minds. It means you've stopped attending every argument you're invited to. It's a strange kind of maturity, this ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, like a lake reflecting lightning without trembling. The rude person wants to pull you into their storm, but when you refuse to fight, you reveal something unsettling to them: control. Not control over them, control over yourself. There's an energy that builds in silence. When someone throws cruelty your way, and you respond with stillness instead of fire, you shift the power entirely. You remind them, and yourself, that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the refusal to become it. Your silence says, "You do not have access to me." And that realization leaves them speechless, because it's no longer a battle of words. It's a mirror of energy. It's in that moment that you begin to see how most rudeness has little to do with you at all. Rudeness is projection, a storm forming inside someone who hasn't learned how to calm their own weather. So they cast their thunder on whoever stands near. But you don't have to stand in the rain. You can step back, watch the lightning, and understand it without needing to join it. That awareness turns anger into empathy. Not sympathy for their behavior, but clarity about their pain. When you understand that their cruelty is a symptom of confusion, you stop personalizing it. And when you stop taking it personally, you stop being wounded by it. You begin to see that rude people often feel unseen. They shout because they've forgotten how to speak softly. They interrupt because they've never been truly heard. They try to belittle you because deep down they feel small. It doesn't excuse them, but it explains them. And sometimes understanding the reason behind someone's behavior doesn't justify it, it simply frees you from being trapped in it. But to reach that point, you must first confront your own ego, because it's the ego that whispers, "Defend yourself, prove your worth, show them who you are," and every time you obey that voice, you hand your peace away in exchange for temporary validation. Yet the truth is, no one can validate your worth. It's not a currency they can give or take. It's already written in the quietness of your being. The moment you remember that, you no longer need to defend yourself, because you realize there is nothing to defend. It's an art to stay graceful when disrespected. Not weak, graceful. Weakness absorbs the insult. Grace transforms it. Grace turns tension into space. It's when you breathe before reacting, when you smile instead of snapping, when you let the echo of their words dissolve in your stillness instead of returning the echo. That stillness is not passive, it's powerful. It's the quiet defiance that says, "You will not dictate my state of being." And in that sacred pause between reaction and response, something miraculous happens. You rise above the situation. You begin to see the person before you not as an enemy, but as a mirror. Every rude encounter is a spiritual test, a question whispered by life itself. Will you match their energy, or will you master yours? Most people react instinctively. They mirror anger with anger, rudeness with sarcasm, coldness with bitterness. But the awakened one, the one who chooses presence, mirrors peace. It's not always easy to do. Sometimes their words sting, sometimes their tone cuts deep, sometimes their laughter carries the weight of mockery. But if you can stay anchored in the awareness that you are not what they see, that you are something far deeper, far calmer, you reclaim your freedom. No one can touch a soul that has made peace with itself. They can insult your image, but they can't touch your essence. To leave a rude person speechless, you don't have to shout louder. You just have to stop performing. Because that's what they expect. A show, a reaction, a scene. When you offer none, when you stand there calm, detached, yet grounded, they suddenly face themselves. The silence becomes a mirror, and they see their own ugliness reflected back. The energy they send toward you ricochets inward. That's why your calm disturbs them. It forces them to hear their own noise. But this kind of power requires discipline, emotional discipline. It's the art of feeling everything without expressing it destructively. It's learning to pause before you speak, to choose truth over ego, and to let go of the need to be right. Because sometimes peace is found not in winning the argument, but in refusing to argue at all. There's something profoundly magnetic about a person who stays serene in chaos. It's not detachment in the cold sense, it's awareness in the warm sense. It's knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You don't silence a rude person with words, you silence them with presence. Your energy becomes so still, so centered that their chaos feels awkward in comparison. They can't sustain their hostility when you give it nothing to feed on. When you practice this often enough, you begin to realize something beautiful, that rude people are simply teachers in disguise. They appear to test your patience, but in truth, they reveal the parts of you that still crave control, still demand recognition, still carry unhealed pride. Every rude encounter becomes an invitation to rise higher within yourself. So the next time someone disrespects you, try something different. Instead of reacting, breathe. Observe your urge to respond. Watch the ego prepare its defense, then choose silence. That single act of restraint will feel uncomfortable at first because silence feels like doing nothing. But it's not nothing. It's awareness in motion. It's you refusing to let their energy rewrite your vibration. And when you walk away, you'll feel something rare, a quiet dignity, the kind of strength that doesn't roar but glows. You'll realize that you didn't lose anything by not responding. You gained everything by staying true to yourself. In time, your silence becomes your language. Your calm becomes your protection. Your energy becomes your boundary. And those who approach you with disrespect will either rise to meet your peace or fall away from your presence. That is how you leave a rude person speechless, not by conquering them, but by refusing to descend to where their words live. You don't out-argue them, you outgrow them. You don't prove your worth, you embody it so gracefully that their words can no longer reach it. And as you walk through life with this quiet confidence, you'll notice the world itself begins to change. Not because people have become kinder, but because your perception has. You no longer see rudeness as an attack, but as noise that cannot disturb your music. You are no longer defined by their tone, because you found your rhythm within. This is the kind of peace no one can take, the peace that makes silence the loudest reply. There comes a moment in your life when you stop needing to prove that you are kind, that you are patient, that you are right. You simply are. And from that quiet space, you begin to understand that other people's lack of grace is not your responsibility to correct. You begin to see that peace is not a prize won by being better than others. It's a home you return to within yourself. When you start living from this awareness, rudeness stops piercing you. It touches the surface of your being, but it no longer enters. Because something inside you has grown still, strong, but soft. You realize that the only power anyone ever had over you was the power to make you forget who you are. And now you remember. This remembrance changes everything. When someone mocks you, interrupts you, disrespects your silence, you see it for what it truly is, noise trying to pull melody into chaos. But you don't have to become that noise. You can stay music, you can stay rhythm, you can stay grace. The greatest lesson life offers through rude people is self-command. They arrive not to break you, but to reveal how easily you can be shaken. And every time you choose not to react, not to match their energy, not to let your peace slip away, you strengthen the muscles of your spirit. You learn to hold your own vibration steady while the world trembles around you. But let's be honest, there are days when you'll fail. There are days when someone's tone will sting and the words will leave your heart pounding. There are days when you'll speak before thinking, when you'll fall into the same old trap of defending yourself to someone who never intended to understand you, and in those moments, you might feel disappointed in your own reaction. Yet even that is part of the lesson. The goal isn't to become untouchable, it's to become aware, to catch yourself faster each time, to realize that your reaction doesn't define you, your awareness of it does. Because awareness is what transforms patterns into wisdom. Over time, you'll notice a shift. You'll start pausing before reacting. You'll start breathing before speaking. You'll start seeing the person's pain before seeing their words. That pause, that breath, that moment of seeing beyond the surface, that's your freedom opening its wings. It's the space where your higher self whispers, don't lose yourself trying to meet them where they are. When you master that art, your energy becomes a sanctuary. People will feel it before you speak. They'll sense that your peace isn't fragile, that your silence isn't submission, that your calm isn't naivety. They'll sense a kind of presence that demands respect without ever asking for it. You see, there's a power that doesn't shout. It emanates. It doesn't need validation because it carries its own authority. That power comes from alignment, the alignment of your values, your energy, your boundaries. When you live in that alignment, disrespect cannot penetrate it. It bounces off like arrows against armor made of light. And this is what leaves rude people truly speechless. Not your silence alone, but the depth of peace that surrounds it. They sense that they cannot touch you, cannot provoke you, cannot shift you from your center. It's not about dominance, it's about mastery. You've learned that calmness is not weakness. It's the highest form of control, the kind that flows rather than forces. When your presence holds this kind of peace, the energy around you begins to change. Conversations soften, tension dissolves faster. You start attracting calmer souls, people who communicate from awareness, not from ego. You begin to see that what you give energy to multiplies, and so you choose not to multiply rudeness but understanding. Not chaos but clarity. But there's another layer to this, forgiveness. Not the kind that excuses harmful behavior, but the kind that liberates you from bitterness. Because holding on to resentment is like carrying poison in a crystal glass, beautiful on the outside but deadly within. Forgiveness isn't about saying it's okay that you hurt me. It's about saying, I choose not to carry what you left behind. To forgive a rude person doesn't mean you invite them back into your energy. It means you release the emotional debt they tried to impose on you. You stop replaying the scene in your head. You stop needing closure from someone who can't give it. You stop waiting for them to recognize your worth because you already have. Forgiveness, in this sense, is the ultimate silence, the kind that speaks only to your own soul. You'll notice that as you forgive, you also grow lighter, that the heaviness in your chest fades, that the conversations you replayed in your mind begin to dissolve. It's because forgiveness returns your energy to you. Every grudge is energy trapped in the past. Every act of forgiveness is energy freed into the present. And when you live in the present, truly here, in this breath, rude people lose their grip on you completely because rudeness thrives on reaction, and reaction lives in the past and future, what they said, what you might say, what it means. But presence has no timeline. It's timeless, still, whole. When you are present, their words cannot attach to you because you are no longer giving them the surface to stick to. To live this way is to live with deep awareness, to become the eye of the storm rather than the debris it carries. You walk through chaos without becoming it. You listen to harshness without echoing it. You hold space for truth without trying to control it. It's not always glamorous. Peace rarely is. It's quiet work, done in moments when no one sees you. It's in the times when you bite your tongue instead of fighting back. It's in the moments when you pray for clarity instead of revenge. It's in the silence you choose when your ego screams for a response. But those small choices build something unbreakable inside you, a kind of spiritual gravity, a calm that doesn't waver, a dignity that doesn't depend on approval. And as you grow into this version of yourself, you'll notice how effortlessly your boundaries begin to set themselves. You won't need to announce. They'll be felt. Because the truth is, when you embody peace, you automatically repel chaos. When you embody respect, you expose disrespect. When you embody light, you make darkness uncomfortable. So you no longer need to leave a rude person speechless. Your energy does it for you. In the end, what truly disarms rudeness is not cleverness but consciousness. It's not the sharpness of your tongue, but the stillness of your spirit. It's the quiet understanding that no one can touch what you've already made peace with. You are not here to argue with noise. You are here to create harmony. You are not here to absorb other people's storms. You are here to remind them, through your calm, that there is stillness beyond the thunder. And maybe, just maybe, your silence will teach them what words never could. There's a stillness that grows inside you when you finally realize that not every battle deserves your presence. It's the stillness that comes when you've cried enough tears, when you've explained yourself too many times, when you've rehearsed the perfect comeback in your head but choose not to speak it aloud. It's the quiet understanding that your peace is worth more than your pride, and that not everyone deserves access to your emotional world. That realization changes how you move through life. You stop chasing apologies, you stop expecting people to evolve at your pace, and you stop mistaking reaction for strength. You begin to see that the true power lies in your ability to remain unmoved in the face of disrespect. Not because you're cold, but because you've learned that energy flows where attention goes, and you will no longer spend your sacred attention on what drains you. This is where emotional maturity blooms, in the pause between their words and your response. In that moment, you become both observer and creator. You observe the chaos, but you do not join it. You feel the sting of their tone, but you do not become their mirror. You hold your energy close, breathing through the impulse to defend, and instead, you build a bridge back to your center. That bridge is made of awareness, of knowing that your peace cannot be stolen, only surrendered. Once you understand this, you begin to listen differently. When someone speaks with rudeness, you no longer just hear their words, you hear their wounds. You begin to notice the frustration beneath their sarcasm, the insecurity beneath their arrogance, the fear beneath their need to control. And this awareness, rather than fueling anger, brings compassion. Not the kind of compassion that tolerates mistreatment, but the kind that understands and detaches at the same time. You can stand in empathy without standing in chaos. You can care without carrying. That is emotional mastery, to look at a rude person and see the child in them still trying to feel significant, to see their harshness as a shield, not a weapon, to realize that every unkind word is often born from someone's deep desire not to feel small. And once you see that truth, you stop taking their behavior personally, because it was never truly about you. It was about their own inner disquiet. Yet awareness alone isn't enough. You must also practice discernment, because some people, even when understood, should not be allowed to remain close. Compassion doesn't require closeness. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can understand their pain and still refuse to be its target. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to peace. They are how you honor your own worth while still recognizing another's struggle. And perhaps the most powerful thing about boundaries is that they don't always need to be spoken. Your energy communicates them. When you no longer react, when you stop feeding the fire of disrespect, the other person eventually feels the futility of their behavior. Your peace becomes a mirror, showing them their own restlessness. Your silence becomes a lesson, teaching them that not everyone will play their emotional games. This kind of strength doesn't roar, it hums quietly through your spirit. It's in the way you smile when provoked, not out of mockery, but out of understanding. It's in the way you walk away from an argument you could easily win, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. You start to realize that not everything that demands your energy deserves it. And slowly, peace becomes not just something you protect, it becomes who you are. But this path of peace is not linear. There will be moments when your old habits rise, when your voice wants to match their tone, when your heart aches for justice, when your ego demands to be seen. In those moments, remember, you are human. Growth does not mean you never fall. It means you rise with greater awareness each time. You'll begin to notice that your recovery becomes faster, your perspective clearer, and your energy steadier. That is what healing looks like, not perfection, but progression. And with time, you begin to understand that rude people have an unexpected purpose. They reveal to you the places where you still lack peace. They show you what parts of your ego still crave control, still need validation, still struggle with letting go. Every encounter becomes a mirror, not of their flaws, but of your own inner landscape. If you're willing to look deeply enough, even their rudeness becomes a teacher. It teaches you humility, that not every battle is meant to be fought. It teaches you patience, that peace grows stronger in silence. It teaches you grace, that you can hold your power without holding grudges. And slowly you realize that the person who once could ruin your day with a single sentence now holds no power over you at all. That realization feels like freedom, quiet, profound freedom. Because when your emotions no longer dance to someone else's music, you become untouchable. This kind of peace begins to transform how you engage with the world. You start choosing softness over sharpness. You start valuing calm over being right. You begin to understand that life is too short to keep matching energies that do not serve your growth. Instead of trying to prove your goodness, you simply live it. Instead of trying to change the rude, you embody the kind. And in doing so, you raise the vibration of every space you walk into. That's the hidden beauty of restraint. It's not suppression, it's elevation. Every time you choose not to respond in anger, you choose evolution. You move one step higher in consciousness, one layer deeper into peace. The rude person remains trapped in their own turmoil, but you walk free. You leave their chaos behind like a traveler leaving behind a stormy sea, sailing toward clearer waters. And when you reach that clarity, something inside you shifts permanently. You stop seeking revenge in silence. You stop replaying their words in your head. You stop needing closure from people who lack awareness. You simply bless the experience for what it taught you and move on. Because now you understand, peace doesn't come when life gets easier. It comes when you stop letting small things disturb your great soul. From that place of peace, your energy becomes medicine. You start to notice that even those who were once rude to you begin to soften in your presence. Some will apologize, some will stay silent, and some will simply fade away. Not because you demanded change, but because your stillness made their noise too uncomfortable to continue. You didn't fight them, you elevated the space, and that's the essence of real influence. Not forcing others to change, but embodying a truth so powerful that it naturally invites them to rise with you or remove themselves from your orbit. You teach not by correcting their tone, but by living yours. You silence not through confrontation, but through coherence. By being so aligned within that dissonance cannot survive near you. To live this way requires courage. The courage to stand in peace when everything around you calls for reaction. The courage to let go when your heart aches to hold on. The courage to believe that silence doesn't mean weakness, but wisdom. And when you choose this path again and again, you start walking in a rhythm that cannot be disturbed. Your heart beats to a higher pulse, the pulse of purpose, not pride. You begin to see that rude people are no longer obstacles but opportunities. reminders to remain awake, to remain conscious, to remain sovereign over your emotional landscape. Every encounter, every word, every glare becomes a small test of grace. And with each test passed, your inner world expands, your light strengthens, your presence deepens. Eventually, the world itself starts to feel quieter. Not because people stop being rude, but because you stop needing them to change for you to feel at peace. You learn that peace is not something you receive, it's something you decide. It's a choice made moment by moment, breath by breath. And when you begin living that choice, you find beauty even in the difficult moments. You start seeing divine design in human imperfections. You understand that every sharp tongue and every cold heart carries a lesson hidden inside it. A lesson about patience, detachment, compassion, and truth. So you no longer fear rude people. You thank them. Not out of pride, but out of gratitude for the wisdom they drew out of you. They forced you to meet parts of yourself you didn't know existed. The patient one, the peaceful one, the wise one who knows that silence can sometimes heal more than words ever could. And in the end, you realize that the goal was never to leave a rude person speechless. It was to leave ourselves unshaken. Because silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. It's the moment when you remember that you are not here to match the chaos of the world, but to calm it, first within yourself and then beyond. This is where your true power lives, not in the loudness of your defense, but in the softness of your peace. And once you find it, no rudeness, no insult, no storm can take it from you again. There comes a sacred shift in life, the kind that doesn't arrive with noise or announcement, but with quiet recognition. It's when you finally realize that peace isn't found in changing others. It's found in changing how deeply others can reach into you. It's when your boundaries stop being spoken rules and start becoming the natural rhythm of your being. When someone crosses them, you don't react. You simply rise above. You no longer argue for respect because your energy itself commands it. You begin to understand that true strength isn't loud. It's not in the sharpness of your reply or the firmness of your tone. It's in the pause before your response. It's in the way you breathe when everything around you begs for reaction. It's in the small, steady grace that allows you to remain composed when others lose their balance. That kind of strength is quiet, but it's not passive. It's power refined by understanding. Rude people often thrive on confusion. They seek chaos because they've mistaken control for connection. They push boundaries not out of courage, but out of fear. They talk loudly because silence makes them uncomfortable. But when you stand before them, calm, rooted, unshaken, you become something they can't manipulate. You become stillness itself, and stillness makes noise tremble. In that stillness, you learn that not every act of disrespect deserves a lesson. Sometimes silence teaches more than explanation ever could. Because when someone disrespects you and you stay dignified, they are left facing their own reflection. Your silence doesn't mean they've won. It means the battle they were trying to start never even began. You denied its existence. And that is how your peace defeats what their ego was trying to feed. Over time, this kind of emotional discipline becomes a way of life. You start recognizing your triggers, understanding their roots. You stop trying to suppress your emotions and instead you begin to observe them, like waves rising and falling within you. You start to see that no emotion is the enemy, only the unconscious reaction is. The moment you bring awareness into a feeling, it transforms from chaos into clarity. That's when you become master of your inner weather. And once you can master that, no one's tone, no one's words, no one's cold, silence can take away your light. You realize that your worth is not negotiable, not dependent on someone's approval, not diminished by someone's rudeness. It simply is like the sun, shining even when clouds cover its face. You are the sun. Their attitude is the cloud, and clouds always pass. But let's be honest, this peace doesn't come overnight. You must unlearn years of conditioning that taught you to prove, defend, and explain. You must unlearn the need to fix what's broken in others. You must unlearn the urge to meet disrespect with pride. Because the truth is, reacting to rudeness with rudeness doesn't make you powerful. It makes you tired. Power isn't in reaction, it's in redirection. So you start choosing differently. When someone raises their voice, you lower yours. When they throw insult, you throw grace. When they step into darkness, you remain in light. You stop doing it to look noble. You do it because your soul no longer wants to live in the noise of reaction. You realize that peace is not a performance, it's protection. This realization leads to one of the greatest freedoms you'll ever experience, the freedom of emotional sovereignty. That is, the understanding that no one outside of you controls your inner state unless you hand them the keys. Once you grasp that, you no longer get dragged into every emotional current that passes by. You begin to respond to life from stillness, not impulse. You learn that the true victory isn't making them regret their words, it's walking away without carrying their energy home. You stop replaying conversations in your mind, stop drafting responses you'll never send. You let go, because you finally understand that not every rude encounter deserves a sequel. The story can end where your peace begins, and something miraculous happens when you live that way. Your world starts to rearrange itself around your new vibration. The loud people seem quieter, the chaos around you slows down. You find yourself meeting kinder souls, speaking softer words, attracting peace like a magnet. Because what you radiate, you receive. Your silence becomes not just a boundary, but a frequency, one that only those aligned with grace can truly understand. But even in this new awareness, there will be tests. Life will keep sending you echoes of the same lesson, not to punish you, but to prove your growth. You'll face people who test your patience, situations that challenge your calm, words that tempt your pride. Yet each time, you'll respond a little differently. You'll recognize the test, smile softly to yourself, and pass it, not with defiance, but with peace. And through these tests, you begin to see something profound, that rude people aren't obstacles on your path, they are mirrors of your progress. What used to trigger you deeply now barely ripples your energy. What once consumed your thoughts now barely graces your awareness. The same storm that once made you tremble now only refreshes your air. That's when you know you've grown, not when you've silenced others, but when they can no longer disturb your silence. This growth also changes how you perceive your own voice. You realize that silence doesn't always mean inaction. Sometimes it's the purest form of expression. There's a difference between staying silent out of fear and staying silent out of mastery. One feels small, the other feels infinite. You begin to use your words less to defend and more to direct. You speak from clarity, not from chaos. Your words become precise, intentional, few, but powerful. And this kind of presence, this quiet dignity, begins to transform even those around you. People start to notice. They begin to speak differently to you, not because you demanded respect, but because your energy no longer allows anything less. You become a living example of self-respect. You show without preaching that boundaries can coexist with kindness, that gentleness can coexist with power. Eventually, you stop asking, how can I make rude people stop being rude? And start asking, what is this experience teaching me about myself? You realize that every encounter carries wisdom, even the unpleasant ones, especially the unpleasant ones, because those are the moments that refine your spirit. You start to understand that life uses every interaction, even the rude ones, to polish your awareness, to show you where your peace still wavers, where your ego still hides, where your light still dims. The rude person may never change, but because of them, you do. They become unwilling contributors to your spiritual evolution. And with that realization, you let go of resentment entirely. You stop fighting life for giving you what you once thought you didn't deserve. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "Thank you. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the awareness. Thank you for the strength that came disguised as difficulty." Because now you see that every challenge was a call back home. Home to your calm, home to your wisdom, home to your true self. From this place, your peace no longer depends on external silence. It exists even in the noise. You can walk through chaos and remain untouched. You can listen to insults and remain unoffended. You can feel the vibration of anger around you and remain grounded. Not because you were numb, but because you're deeply alive, aware that none of it defines you. And that's when you finally understand what it truly means to leave a rude person speechless. It's not by shocking them, defeating them, or outsmarting them. It's by being so rooted in self-awareness that their chaos cannot find a single opening in you. Your calm becomes an unshakable truth, one that no words can fracture. Your silence doesn't just leave them speechless, it leaves them reflective. For the first time, they hear themselves. For the first time, they see how small noise looks next to stillness. For the first time, they experience what true peace feels like, and something inside them softens, even if just for a moment. That's how transformation begins. Not always through teaching or correction, but through quiet example. The peace you embody becomes a mirror for others to find their own. And in that way, you don't just silence rudeness, you transcend it. You become the still water that reflects chaos back into calm. And perhaps that is the deepest truth of all, that your calm is not only your protection, it is also your gift to the world. A reminder that even in a noisy, reactive, restless world, there are still souls who choose grace over anger, presence over pride, and peace over power. So keep choosing calm, keep choosing stillness, keep choosing silence that speaks volumes. Because the day you realize your inner peace is not negotiable, that's the day no rude person, no harsh word, no restless storm can ever touch you again. There comes a moment when silence itself becomes your final word. When you no longer need to prove, to justify, to fight for your space in the noise of the world. That is when you've mastered not only the art of leaving rude people speechless, but the art of mastering yourself. Because this was never about them. It was never about how to win an argument or how to appear stronger. It was always about how to remain whole when others try to divide you. You begin to see that peace is not weakness, it is control. True power doesn't shout, it radiates. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows who they are and refuses to hand that knowing over to anyone's cruelty. The rude person, the bitter soul, the mocking tongue, all crumble eventually before one who stands still in truth. And that stillness, that unshaken center within you, is what life has been trying to teach you all along. Every insult, every misunderstanding, every person who tried to tear your spirit apart, they were the lessons. They were the mirror showing you where your ego still flinched, where your peace still depended on someone else's behavior. But when you reach the point where your peace is no longer negotiable, something beautiful happens. You stop being reactive. You start becoming reflective. You don't mirror the darkness anymore, you illuminate it. You walk away, not in defeat, but in grace. Because your energy has outgrown the argument. And so, the path ahead becomes simple. Let silence be your statement. Let kindness be your rebellion. Let presence be your answer. You are not here to match anyone's rudeness. You are here to rise beyond it. For every word meant to wound you, may your stillness whisper something far louder, that you are free. And when that realization sinks in, when you know that no one's attitude has the power to disturb your inner weather, then you've won a victory greater than any spoken triumph. You've left them speechless, yes, but more importantly, you've found your own voice within the silence,